welcome back, everyone. I got an album playing in the background, and I think, like, it won't pick up much from it, so, and it's also kind of rarer, harder to find. So we'll see what YouTube says. We'll probably put a copyright and put ads on the video, and where I think it's Orchard Records is probably going to collect the revenue. Yeah. But one of the things that I liked about what TJ Kirk was doing recently on his channel was making like a goal of videos. And I think that that's probably something that I should do. So, recently, one of the things that I've been thinking about that has been sort of a subject of conversation that I would like to bring up is looking at the chronic pain community and just how much hell that people who are chronic pain patients today have to go through. It's like there was this huge pyramid thing that the medical industry created to help people manage and deal with pain. And it's like everything in the pyramid was sort of neat. Like, it was like, aha, we figured it out. It was like a combination of, like, consultations from your primary care, medications, and physical therapy, primary care, medications, pain management doctors. It's like the physical therapy helped maintain, like, elasticity, mobility, that kind of thing. The pain meds were there to help you retain your functionality, reduce pain levels, retain as much independency as possible, depending on the condition that you have. And then, like, you have pain management doctors, and it's just like, well, their function was to give you pain relief so that you didn't have to rely on pain medications all the time. And they had this whole thing built up where it was this very, very holistic approach, and it worked really, really well. And then this group of moral busybodies came in and took one thing out. So we don't need this one thing. Well, why don't you need that one thing? Oh, because this is a drug. This is bad. It's a drug. It's addictive and stuff. Well, so are the other medications, the other drugs that you want to prescribe instead of those. And they said, oh, well, but the difference is they're not habit forming, which is, sort of our code word for saying that they don't cause a sense of euphoria. I was like, well, looking at some of the conditions that these chronic pain patients are in, is having a sense of euphoria really a bad thing in this situation? And their answer was, we're not really interested in the ethical or moral arguments of anything. We're not interested in thinking of it that way. It causes a sense of euphoria, so it has a high rate of abuse. And even though, the medications we're telling you to prescribe, you form a chemical dependency on them, but we're going to start considering that something completely different. That's not addiction, that's dependency. And we want to look at that in a different way. Well, now, I mean, you got the chronic pain patient community. Suicide rates are up 470%. And we get a lot of people between the national and local Don't Punish Pain rally and the TOS support group that I'm in. I talk to a lot of people who have chronic pain, and like if it's getting to I'm getting some ideas now of, like, if I were to talk to somebody that just became a chronic pain patient, I have some ideas now on what I could tell them to expect. It's like, first of all, expect that most people are not going to understand, that you don't get it unless you get it. That's true enough. But people will start to perceive you as being lazy. They'll perceive you as being a drug seeker because you're going to want something to stop the pain. There's no real polite way of putting it. There's no way to say, like, look, that it's hard to be positive about this. I mean, like, I'm just going to keep it real. Like, life is going to start to suck. It's going to suck. There's going to be a lot of things that, like, basically the mantra of chronic pain patients across the board is, there's a bunch of things I used to be able to do that I can't anymore, and I don't know what to do about it. And that's going to be your life. And nobody's going to understand. People will, in the beginning, they'll have empathy and sympathy, but as time goes on, it wears thin, and they start saying, like, they start treating you like you're trying to carry a victim mentality or something. Like, you know, why don't you get up and do these things? I'm tired of doing these things for you. Why aren't you doing them yourself? And you'll find yourself constantly having to remind them, like, I don't do those things because I am a chronic pain patient. I have damage, permanent damage to my body, and there's things I can't do anymore. And they'll be like, well, I see you do this, I see you do that, I see you do this other thing, and it's like, well, yeah, those things are not a problem for me, but these other things over here are. You even get people who will tell you, like, well, why, you know, just you know, get over it, stop being a baby, and, you know, you have a penis and a pair of testicles, you know, work through that pain. And the thing is it's not always pain. I struggle with my right arm alone. Like, if I get a 5 pound little dumbbell, it's very difficult for me to lift that repeatedly, or do any kind of repetitive motion with my right arm. And it's not necessarily because of pain. A lot of it has to, like, you have, like, I have to remind people, I have nerve damage, okay? I have nerve damage from the nerve trunk, the C5 nerve trunk, vertebrae C5, and damage to nerve trunk from vertebrae C7, which is the radial and median nerve. So sometimes the motion of my arm is not dictated by pain, it's dictated by the fact that, well, the nerve, there's two major nerves that are not communicating with my brain properly. Like, the message, sometimes the message gets there, but a lot of the times the message is really hazy. Like, one of the things when I'm playing video games is, this is like the aim button, and this is the fire button. And in my mind, I think I'm doing this with the fire button, like, repeatedly, like, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It's actually really hard to do that, but in my mind, my brain is telling my finger, do like this really, really fast, and I'm watching the screen, you know, to see what I'm doing. And my character just kind of holds the gun out. He's like, hey, here, look at my weapon. Isn't that neat? And I'm like, why won't my weapon fire? And I think that there's something wrong with the game. At one point, I looked down and I looked at my finger and noticed it wasn't moving. Thought it was moving. It was moving in my head, but the message doesn't get to my hand all the time, or particularly these three fingers, the middle finger, pointer finger, and thumb. The message doesn't always get there, so my brain is telling it to move, doesn't always get there, doesn't always move. So in my head it's moving, but actually look down, it's stationary. So you won't get pain meds. You won't get pain meds. Insurance will treat you like shit. You won't get disability. You won't be able to get job security, if a job at all, because the companies have found ways. They found legal loopholes around the ADA, so they don't have to accommodate you. They say, ADA, what's that? We don't care. You can't sue the companies anymore. A lot of disability lawyers will tell you that there's a lot of rules or a lot of things that have been put in place protecting these corporations, and it's made being a disability discrimination lawyer very difficult. It's made it very, very hard for them to make money. So same with disability lawyers. It's hard to get a disability lawyer to back you because of all the red tape and everything. They basically have to prove that you can't sell tickets out of a ticket booth, as it was put to me. It's like, well, I can sell tickets out of a ticket booth. Who's gonna let me just sell tickets out of a ticket booth, though? And so you're going to go through, as a chronic pain patient, if you're new to it, you're going to go through a process of mourning, of grieving. You're going to go through the grieving processes over the limb that doesn't function anymore. You're going to long for the days where it worked properly and you could do things that you can no longer now do. You'll have to start depending on people for help more so than you're probably comfortable with, and it sucks, and it takes a long time to get used to, and it chases a lot of people away because some people might stay with understanding, like, okay, you're permanently partially disabled. A lot of people will be like, they start getting, the impression that that you should be healing or something. They don't understand that this is permanent. It's permanent. And with taking away of the pain meds, it's like I could live like another 50 years, and it's like I have to live another 50 years with this. The people who are against pain meds, like I've heard the argument put forward that they say, well, I don't think a company or somebody should be able to profit off of addiction. I mean, that sounds really nice, and I mean, to a certain level, a certain degree, a certain part of me sort of agrees with that sentiment. That's a nice sentiment. It's like, well, I mean, in principle, if you're deliberately giving somebody something that is addictive for the sole sake and purpose of knowing that they're going to come back and give you more money and profit, that's how your main source of profit is made, is knowing that you've given them something addictive and they're going to come back and give you, like, it's almost like a guaranteed income. I'm against that, but I don't think that's that's not your pain medications. They're as much as Dope Sick loves to talk about how all these doctors were like, oh no, this new opiate medication isn't addictive. It's not addictive. It isn't addictive. I've never heard a doctor say that. I've never ever seen that's one of the first things they usually tell you. Only take this as directed, because it is addictive. And that even comes to the infamous Percocet produced by Purdue Pharma. In the Don't Punish Pain crowd, the people in there get accused of being paid by Purdue Pharma, which they're not. We get people in Don't Punish Pain that used to be against prescribing opiate medications for pain until they end up in the hospital with a major pain condition. You know, you see all these people with like carpal tunnel. Like, I love it when somebody with carpal tunnel is like, I have carpal tunnel and I make it through the day. It's like, oh, well, you know, like, I had 5 nerves compressed for like 5 or 6 years, and I ended up having scar tissue cauterized out of this area by my vertebrae. I had my interior and anterior scalene muscles removed. I had my first rib removed, and I had my pectoral muscle detached from my shoulder. So I'm sure, you know, that's total, like, I'm not into this whole comparing pain conditions because they're all so different, you know. Like talking to somebody with fibromyalgia, you know, I saw a woman tell me, I have fibromyalgia, you need to work through the pain, blah, 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 blah. It's like, look, I have no doubt in my mind that having fibromyalgia sucks. I have no doubt in my mind that it does, but you appear to be pretty functional with it. Not every pain condition you are as functional. Some you are, some no. Some you've lost functionality. Just because you're a chronic pain patient doesn't mean you're permanently, partially disabled, or fully disabled. I'm a chronic pain patient, but I have nerve damage. I'm permanently, partially disabled. You know, I've been declared that by multiple doctors that don't even know each other. And one of those doctors works at Wash U, and that's one of the top hospitals in the United States. You know, it's the place you go for weird, funky things that nobody's ever heard of. So another thing about being a chronic pain patient is, well, let me tell you about these people that start from like, boo, no, like I watch Dope Sick on Hulu, no opiates are bad. They end up in the ER. They've had to go through a major surgery. They end up in a lot of pain. Like, we're not talking about carpal tunnel. We're talking about, like, oh, they just had a fucking lung removed, you know? And the only thing the doctors will give them is, whether it's oral or intravenous, Tylenol and ibuprofen. And in their minds, they're like, wait a minute, I thought I reached the tier level of, like, you know, like, this would be a short-term opiate prescribing. I think I'm at a pain level here where I thought I would get it. Nope. Actually, just recently, we got a video message from a guy in the hospital where this happened to. You know, he was against the whole, like, I don't want to take opiates, I'm not going to take opiates. Ends up in the hospital, has several fractures, has to do a surgery. This is a big burly man in tears, like just bawling from pain. And all they'll give him, you know, is Tylenol and ibuprofen. By the time Don't Punish Pain finds out, which, you know, we try to find someone to go to the hospital or wherever he's at and advocate for him to get opiate pain medication. Well, he died. He passed away. So that's quite often the case. By the time they get a hold of us, they're only about 5-15 minutes away from killing themselves, and by the time we get a hold of them, they're dead. Not always from suicide. Sometimes they die. You can die from pain. Sometimes that's the case. A lot of times that's the case. It gets kind of depressing after a while. It's like, it's bad. So, you know, these moral busybodied people, it's like, you want to know a group of people that really profitizes off of addiction? The Drug Cartel. They're the cause, like all these opiate overdoses and deaths are being caused specifically, like even back when opiates were being prescribed, only about 1% of opiate deaths were being caused by medication, like opiate medication. Only 1% of the overall deaths. 1% of them. And the majority of 99.9% of that 1% were suicides. They were deliberate, not accidental, deliberate. Like, I'm tired of living my life in pain. I'm tired of being debilitated. I'm going to take my whole bottle of pain meds and die. Now you can't even get pain meds, so there is no overdoses on pain meds. You can't even get them. The overdoses are coming from heroin, but one of the things that the drug lords started doing, and they haven't just done this with heroin, they've found fentanyl in crack and cocaine too. They started putting the fentanyl in the drugs to make them more addictive. Not only does it, when you make a drug more like powerful, more stronger, when you make it stronger, you also make it more addictive. And so they do this on purpose because they want guaranteed clientele. The drug cartel, it's a good thing for the drug cartel when someone overdoses, because then all the hardcore addicts, people who have been addicted to it for a long time, they look at that and go, oh, that person has some strong stuff, that's some good stuff, and I could go and buy from them and use a smaller amount and get as high as I used to, or whatever. Like, instead of taking $100 worth, I'll only have to take $20 worth again, because whatever they had was really strong. So it's good for the drug cartel's business. Like, they literally are deliberately making things addictive, specifically for the sole purpose of getting people to come back, specifically to get them hooked. It's worse than cigarettes even. I mean, you know, that might have been the case back in the day when nicotine came out, but today, you know, it's pretty out in the open. It's blunt. It's honest. Like, hey, you get started on cigarettes, it's hard to quit. This stuff is really fucking addictive. I like my nicotine, but this isn't cigarettes. They're changing. We don't know that these really have a whole lot of negative side effects. We haven't really found any. You notice how the media hasn't talked about that for a while? That's because the cases that came up about vaping were staged. Okay, and there are certain metals you don't use in coils. That's been established. And one of the big problems in the deaths that happened from vaping was that they were vaping acetate and vitamin B, which you cannot do. And those e-liquids where they were vaping this were being made basically like a hooch parlor. You know, they were being made on the underground market, and where it wasn't regulated by the FDA. So this is the big difference, though, when you get prescribed pain medication, is that, you know, first of all, they're honest that it's addictive, but a lot of the times it's like this is a necessary evil, because when you're talking about somebody with chronic pain, especially somebody who's debilitated, this is something that is for the rest of your life. And it might shorten your lifespan a little bit, but like I said, that has, like, If you make the decision, again, I've mentioned this before about freedoms, like the freedom to do something doesn't mean you're forced to do it. So it's about having access to pain meds. It's not about forcing pain meds. It's like, if you're one of those people that don't want to take pain meds, no one's going to force you to. They're going to, okay, we'll give you Tylenol and ibuprofen and muscle relaxers if that's what you want. But just so you know, they can shorten your lifespan too, because they eat holes in your stomach, damage your liver and kidneys. But whatever, you know, if that's what you want to do, that's your choice. But the thing is that, you know, some people prefer to have quality over quantity, and that's more important to them. You know, being able to spend time with their family and stuff before they leave this world is greatly important. And it makes it very, very hard to do when you're bedbound, or when it takes you 4 to 8 hours to make coffee, drink it, shave, and shower. That's my story. It takes me 4 to 8 hours to do that. So, you know, it's like, and maybe it does give a little bit of euphoria, but, you know, when you're in chronic pain all the time and you're having suicidal ideation because you're getting sick of it, you know, maybe a little euphoria isn't a bad thing. And it's highly, highly, highly regulated and controlled, unlike the drug cartels. You know, pharmaceutical companies, they have to answer to the FDA, which has very, very strict regulations. So it's being monitored by your doctor. They know what you're getting. The pharmacy you get it from, they know what's going on. And the pharmacy that makes the drug is beholden to the FDA, that has to follow very, very strict regulations and guidelines. Like, if you get a bottle of medication and like the pharmacy does their part, and it's you know, like they got it from a pharmaceutical company. It says this is, you know, 15 milligram hydrocodone, and they put it in the bottle, but it's not 15 milligram hydrocodone. It's like fentanyl or something. You can sue the ever living fuck out of the pharmaceutical company that made that oopsie daisy, because that could cost someone their life. So they're required by federal law that pill that they're putting in the pharmacy is exactly what it says, that it is a 15 milligram or a 5 milligram or a 10 milligram hydrocodone or oxycontin, whatever it is. It's got to be that, period. And the drug cartel, they're not beholden to any regulations like this. They're not at all. So I get really, really frustrated with these people, because it's like, look, that's a great sentiment, but the fact of the matter is that taking away pain medications from the chronic pain community is killing people. It's killing them. And if you think that you're immune to this, that you don't have to worry about it, well, I got bad news for you. You do. Everyone grows old, and as you grow old, your body breaks down, and the older you get, the more the higher probability is that you're going to develop a chronic pain condition that will immobilize you, that will make you permanently partially disabled, if not fully disabled. Yeah. And when you go through that and you find out, you know, that there's levels of pain that you can't just suck it up and get through. There's levels of pain that Tylenol and ibuprofen don't help. And my marijuana advocates out there, I love you guys, you know, like, fucking legalize it. Hell yeah. But let's stop pretending that marijuana is a miracle drug that can fix anything, okay? It's a great muscle relaxer. I would recommend marijuana as a muscle relaxer as opposed to something like Robaxin or Baclofen, Flexeril, Tizanidine. I would say marijuana is better than those, because it's natural. Your body metabolizes it. It's not going to damage your liver, kidneys, or eat a hole in your stomach. You know, doesn't do all that damage to you. It's fairly benign stuff. So it's a great muscle relaxer. But when it comes to being a pain medication, it doesn't do jack shit for nerve pain. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. It's not. I've never been a big fan of the whole medical marijuana thing. Like, there are medical properties to it, but I don't think that it should be used to just go in and replace all these other drugs and medication. It should be available if you want to do that. But honestly, I've always advocated for just recreation, just full-fledged legal. And again, by legalizing it and letting the FDA control and regulate, there's a lot less room for people to put weird, funky stuff in it to make it more addictive, to make it harder and worse, all that sort of stuff. Death rates, mortality rates go down, all that stuff. So, So those that advocate against it, you'll find out one day that was a bad idea when you have to go on hospice and you realize you're not going to get a morphine drip, and you will be subjected to the terror and torment of your own thoughts as you struggle to cling to life because they don't do morphine drips anymore for end of life treatment for some reason. Like, you only have like so many hours to live, like you're going to get addicted to opiates and you only have 2 hours to live, like that even matters at that point. Opiates do help with end of life because opiates will they flood the brain with dopamine, anxiety, paranoia, depression, gone. And if you take enough opiates, then you will drift in and out of consciousness and just eventually kind of go to sleep and not wake up, which is the way a lot of people want to die. They want to go to sleep and not wake up. They want to die in their sleep. Opiates are a great way to do that. They can actually make that happen. Unlike euthanasia drugs, where they can put you out and make it so that you appear asleep or whatever, but you're not always. And then they inject you with a chemical that basically causes you to go into cardiac arrest. So if the drug that they gave you that's a paralytic doesn't work, you could be fully awake and going into cardiac arrest and not be able to express it. So opiates are probably a more humane way of doing the end of life treatment than that. So just saying. Also, you can't overdose on opiates if you are on a respirator. The only way that opiates kill you from overdosing is by suppressing your respiratory system. So if you are on a respirator, it is impossible to overdose on opiates. Yeah. Opiates are also metabolized by your body, and they don't damage your liver and your kidneys. The only big medical concern that opiates pose is possible constipation. So, I mean, if you are find yourself as a newfound chronic pain patient, I hate to tell you, it's not like, oh, yay, you get to take, granted, it's an addictive medication, but, I mean, it isn't worth it. Let me put it to you this way. If you were to go out and deliberately, permanently damage your body just so you could get opiate and pain medications for the rest of your life, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Because like I said, you lose functionality. And it's not worth it. That's not worth it. And I think a lot of chronic pain patients feel that way. So the thing is, there's nothing positive really to report because you won't get adequate pain treatment. You won't get help from the state. You won't get help from your community. You won't get help from the medical community. You won't be guaranteed any kind of job. There will be no job security based on your restrictions and accommodations, if you can even get a job at all. Which means you will probably end up without an income and a lot of medical bills. They will give you a small pharmacy of alternative medications to try and help you deal with your pain that can lead to other medical complications like eating a hole in your stomach and kidney failure and liver failure and a plethora of different things. And you're probably going to gain weight because you won't be as active. You won't be able to be as active as you used to be. This won't be possible anymore. And there's just not a whole, it's just basically it's a roll out the welcome mat to hell. Welcome to hell. That's what it is. I wish I could be more positive about it, but no. there's nothing really positive about it at all. And now you've got this society of people out there that just wants you to adapt. And sometimes you can't. So, yeah. And a lot of the times the doctors will want to help you, but they just won't be able to. They just won't. So yeah, that'll become the mantra. That is the mantra of pretty much every chronic pain patient I've met, especially those that are permanently, partially disabled at least, and at most fully disabled, is there's a bunch of shit I used to be able to do that I can't do anymore, and I don't know what to do about it, and nobody else does either. And that's what it is. And no one will understand. They won't get it until they become one themselves. Yeah, welcome to hell. So, yeah. You know, I think that we can do harm reduction and continue to prescribe pain medication to chronic pain patients to help them retain their functionality, help them retain their jobs, especially in a society that thinks it's acceptable for companies to just say, no, I'm not going to, even though there's things that we could have you do, we're not going to anyway, because fuck you, we're not going to deal with it. You know, they've basically, like, took the ADA, ripped it up into pieces, and threw it in the trash and set it on fire. So, if we live in that kind of society, access to pain medications would be very helpful. Oh, yeah. But, no, wait, don't. So, good luck to you if you become a chronic pain patient. It sucks. Not a whole lot to look forward to. Anyway, this is as long as I wanted to. This is actually longer than I wanted to make the video. The song that I was playing, the band that I was playing in the background, it was multiple songs, was Lords of the New Church, and maybe I'll find some links to some songs and leave it in the description if you want to listen to them. Some of my favorites that they've done. But with that out.